Back again with another review here. Continuing with my reviews of the Blade series. Today we're going to take a look at and review the 2002 sequel, Blade 2. As you can see right here. Like I said, I still haven't seen Blade Trinity yet, but I know what's coming. But the plot here with this one, so you have Blade, Wesley Snipes is back, and this time he forms an alliance with this vampire council to stop these Reapers that are basically these mutated vampires that they have this highly dangerous strain, and they feed both on vampires and humans. And so Blade, basically you have a team that is there to help Blade to seek out these Reapers. And that is the plot here to the film. But the film here is directed by Guillermo del Toro, who of course directed Hellboy and Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, which I do enjoy those movies. I need to definitely go back and revisit those films again. I really enjoyed the first two Hellboys. Pan's Labyrinth I've heard about but haven't seen. He also directed the Frankenstein film that came out last year for Netflix. The writers here, you have Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, and David S. Goyer. So I wanted to mention the writers here with this one. The cast, Wesley Snipes, again, is great as Blade. Perfect casting. Definitely brings a lot of, energy and charisma to the character. And is a great martial artist. Chris Christopherson is Whistler. He comes back here. Who we thought died in the first movie from the attack by Frost. But we come to see in the beginning of the film that, he was held prisoner for a couple of years, and, Blade gets him out, and, he gets cured. You have Ron Perlman in the film, who plays the character of Reinhardt, and basically he's the leader of this pack of vampires called the Blood Pack. And they work with Blade to seek out these Reapers. Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. He plays this character Scud, who, kind of takes the place of the character Whistler for a little bit in the shop, where, Blade and Whistler, they work together, and, Whistler provides the weapons. But in this film, Scud, he works with Blade for a little bit, and then Whistler comes back into the picture. The main villain here of Nomak, who is basically patient zero for this strain, and the Nomak character is played by Luke Goss. And, the look of Nomak is done well. The makeup I thought was really solid here. And I'll get more into that later. Donnie Yen's in the film for a little bit, which I forgot about. But he's part of the crew with Ron Perlman, which again I forgot he was in the movie. But then I'll talk more about that because I didn't think he was utilized enough. But overall, the cast is very good here. Now, getting to the film itself, the style and energy is definitely maintained here with, Del Toro's direction. Where in the first movie, Steve Norrington definitely brought some edge and, style. And here, that style is still there, but with Del Toro's direction, again, he really adds a nice flair to the film. And yeah, it seems that people, when you look at both movies, they definitely gravitate towards the first movie more because the first movie's a bit more darker, has more of an edge to it, and being the first movie, where this one, it definitely feels a little bit more comic book, but it has that same kind of, again, style. It's R-rated. It definitely still retains that, style and, again, gore factor. And it definitely dives more into the vampire lore, and it goes more into that, world, and expands more on the characters and so forth. some of the new characters here, again, the character of Scud, played by Norman Reedus, I thought he was a nice addition to the film. Plus, you have these other group of vampires, the Blood Pack, led by Ron Perlman, which, Ron Perlman, compared to the rest of the characters, has more to do here. He's the leader of the group. He has a grudge against Blade, and he's a very unpredictable character in the film, and which you come to find out later more about him. And again, Donnie Yen is in here for a little bit as part of the Blood Pack group, but he doesn't have much to do here. But Ron Perlman's great here. The main villain worked for me. Like I said, the makeup was very solid here. A very formidable villain, and well created. And the way that the Reapers, their face would open, their feeding mechanism, I thought was great stuff. The action and the choreography, to me still works. And you have some cool weapons in there, like the UV weapons and the UV, bombs and stuff. And, there's a couple of moments in the fight scenes where the CGI doesn't look the best. It's a bit shaky, but it's very rare. As far as like scenes that really stood out for me, some of the sequences in the sewers, where they're locating the Reaper's nest, that was great stuff. And there's some great stuff in the third act. But yeah, and also too, there's a moment with Norman Reedus, what happens to his character is entertaining. But yeah, so that's, I think I covered quite a bit here, and, it's not an in-depth review, but, I did mention some stuff that I really enjoyed here with the film. And at the end of the day, Blade 2, Wesley Snipes is great once again with Guillermo del Toro's visual style that makes for an entertaining and worthy sequel. And if I'm going to grade this on a scale from 1 to 10, for me, I'm going to give this an 8. Again, this is a worthy, entertaining sequel. And, while for me, if you were to ask, which do I prefer more, the first film or this film, I will probably pick the first movie because it's the one that started it all. It has a bit more, for me, edge. But the first two Blades, you can't go wrong with. But yeah, so that's it for my review of Blade 2. And stay tuned because next we're going to talk about Blade Trinity. And it's safe to say right here that the third time is not going to be a charm. So, yeah. We'll talk about that next. But thank you for watching, and have a good day.